My name is Destiny Kent. I'm 32 years old, and I run an industrial waste processing company in the Detroit suburbs where we literally turn trash into cash. Last week, my brother messaged the family group chat saying, "Don't come to the engagement party, people will smell the sewer on you." Everyone dropped laughing emojis. Someone even added, "The trash sweeper should know her place." I didn't reply to the chat. I just shot a quick text to the venue manager telling them to hold the payment records for me. That was it. The next morning, my phone blew up. The manager's voice was shaking as he asked, "Destiny, what did you just do?" If you've ever been dismissed by the people who share your last name, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is about to get messy, and you won't want to miss the fallout. That afternoon, my phone rang from the nursing home, and Grandma Evelyn's voice came through, as sharp as ever. "Destiny," I heard Sawyer running his mouth again, she said without even saying hello. "Don't let that boy make you doubt yourself. Your company handles thousands of tons of waste every month. He just talks." I leaned against the office trailer at the processing yard, with the hum of compactors going on in the background. Grandma had always been my backup, the one person who saw the business for what it was, hard-earned success. It all started 4 months earlier. Lane York, Sawyer's best friend since college and a loan officer at the local bank, messaged me privately one night. "Sawyer lost a big ad contract and needs $12,000 fast for his engagement party at the auto museum. He's too proud to ask you directly." I just stared at the screen. Sawyer had been talking up this party for weeks, going on about how it would be the event of the season and how Morgan Nash, his influencer fiancé, deserved the best. I transferred the money through Lane the next morning. No questions asked, no announcement. I told myself it was for the family name, not for him. Fast forward to Mom's birthday dinner at the steakhouse downtown. Ruth Kent sat at the head of the table beaming as Sawyer recounted his latest pitch wins. I arrived straight from a site inspection, still in my company polo with the logo stitched on the chest. Sawyer spotted me first and grinned wide. "Destiny, did you wrestle any big dumpsters today? That factory smell is clinging to your hair." Morgan Nash leaned in, phone already out for a quick story. "Guess won't want the party vibe ruined by waste logos on shirts." "Right." The whole table chuckled. Ruth raised her glass. "Let's toast to Sawyer's future. No distractions." I forced a smile and cut into my ribeye. Grandma Evelyn, sitting next to me, squeezed my knee under the table. "They don't see what you've built," she whispered. "Ignore them." Later that night, back in my apartment overlooking the river, I scrolled through Morgan's reels. She posted clips of venue tours, captioning it, "One dream engagement coming soon, keeping it classy." No mention of who footed the deposit. The next family gathering was a barbecue at Ruth's house in the suburbs. Sawyer fired up the grill, flipping burgers like he owned the world. I brought potato salad from the deli near the plant. As I set it down, Sawyer waved a spatula. "Careful, sis. Don't want industrial grease in the food." Morgan filmed the whole thing, zooming in on my work boots. "Real life behind the glamour," she narrated, with a laugh emoji. Ruth pulled Sawyer aside for photos, arms around him tight. I stood on the patio edge, beer in hand, watching the smoke rise. Grandma wheeled over in her chair from the nursing home visit. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, "just thinking about expansion bids." She nodded. "Focus on that, the rest is noise." A week later, Lane texted updates. Catering booked. Photo booth with vintage car props confirmed. Bartender hiring local craft brewers. Each confirmation came with a thank you emoji, but never from Sawyer. I approved invoices from my company account, since Lane had used my business details for faster processing and bank perks. He claimed $12,000 total, wired in chunks. At the plant, my foreman, Ed, noticed my mood during shift change. "Family giving you grief again? Same old?" I replied, signing off on a load manifest. He shrugged. "You signed the paychecks here. That counts for something." Another dinner, this time at a brewery Sawyer picked. He dominated the conversation with Morgan's follower milestones. 50,000 and climbing, brands are calling. When the server brought my burger, Sawyer joked loud enough for the table to hear. "Hope the kitchen didn't mix it with plant leftovers." Laughter rippled through the group. Ruth patted his back, saying my boys got jokes. Grandma Evelyn called me the next morning. "I saw the group photos. You looked strong. Keep your head up." I thanked her and dove into work. New contracts for factory cleanups, negotiations with city haulers. The money flowed in, steady and real. Sawyer's party loomed closer. Morgan posted mood boards with an industrial chic theme, which was ironic, given everything. Lane sent a final breakdown. Everything paid, balance, 0. I archived the email without reply. Little did I know the real storm was brewing in that family chat, waiting to explode. Tuesday night, the family group chat lit up with notifications while I reviewed quarterly reports at my desk. Sawyer posted first, "Destiny, don't show up to the party. We don't want the venue smelling like sewer from you." Mom dropped a laughing emoji right away and typed, "Know your place, honey." Cousin Finley added a string of fire emojis. Lane stayed silent. Morgan sent a gif of someone holding their nose. I set the phone face down and opened the banking app on my laptop. The contracts Lane had set up all listed my company as the payer, using business account perks for quick approvals. First, the auto museum deposit, $3,000 for the hall rental. I hit cancel on the recurring charge. Confirmation popped up, refunded. Next, catering for steak dinners and sides for 150 guests, $5,000. Another tap, another refund. Photo booth with industrial props to match the theme, $2,000. Gone. Bartender service featuring local craft beers, $2,000. Canceled. The total climbed back into my account, $12,000, every single cent. I closed the app and stared at the balance. There was no anger, just clarity, like signing off on a completed haul. My phone buzzed again, this time a private message from Grandma Evelyn. "You run the company. Don't let them use you. I've got your back." I replied with a heart emoji and powered down the laptop. Earlier that day, I'd met with city officials about a new landfill contract. They praised our efficiency, asked about scaling up. Sawyer's party felt distant already. At the plant, trucks rolled in with loads from auto factories. Metal shavings, coolant, sludge, packaging waste. My team sorted it all, turning potential fines into revenue streams. Sawyer had once toured the facility during high school, whining about the noise. Now he acted like his marketing gigs outshone everything. Mom's birthday toast replayed in my head, but I pushed it aside. The refunds processed clean. I drove home through quiet suburbs, windows down, letting the evening air clear my thoughts. The museum manager would notice soon enough. Back in my kitchen, I poured a glass of water and checked vendor emails. All auto payments stopped. No alerts yet. Finley posted a poll in the chat. Who's excited for the party? Votes poured in from aunts and uncles. I muted the thread and opened a spreadsheet for next quarter's projections. Expansion meant hiring more drivers, upgrading compactors. Real growth. Evelyn's message glowed on the screen. She'd seen too many family favors go sour over the years. The clock hit 10 p.m. I locked up, set alarms for the morning shift. Truck started at 5 a.m. Sawyer's words lingered, but the refunds felt final, like closing a gate on overflow. I slept without checking the chat again. The next morning, I arrived at the yard before dawn. Ed handed me the manifest for incoming loads from 3 factories. We coordinated routes, adjusted schedules for peak efficiency. By noon, I reviewed bids from suppliers for new shredders. Numbers added up solid. Lane had forwarded the final venue contract weeks ago, highlighting my company tax ID for deductions. I'd signed off without a second thought. Now every line item sat refunded. I grabbed lunch from the food truck outside, tacos with extra hot sauce. I sat on a crate, watching cranes lift containers. A text from Evelyn read, "Proud of you for drawing the line." I smiled and pocketed the phone. Afternoon meetings with environmental compliance officers ran smooth. They extended our certification another year. Back in the office, I updated payroll. Raises approved for top performers. The chat stayed muted. No new pings. Evening shift change. I briefed the night crew on priority hauls. Everything ran like clockwork. I drove home as the sun set over the river. The radio played old rock. I showered off the day, cooked a simple pasta, and ate at the counter, scrolling through industry news. Evelyn called me before bed. "Heard anything yet?" "Not a word," I said. "Good, let them figure it out." We talked about her garden at the home and the new tomatoes that were coming in. I hung up, feeling grounded, then set my phone on the charger and turned the lights out by 11 p.m. I dreamed of open roads and full trucks. The next morning at 7 a.m., my phone rang with an unknown number from the museum. The manager sounded frantic, saying the payments had been canceled and the contract voids in 48 hours unless reloaded. I let him talk while sipping coffee at the kitchen counter. He detailed the deposit loss, set up crews on standby, and lighting rigs half installed. Before hanging up, he asked for an immediate wire transfer. I said I'd review it and ended the call. A text from the caterer followed, saying steak orders for 150 needed confirmation today or they'd release the meat. I just archived it. Lane messaged me privately, saying Sawyer was freaking out and that he had to tell him that my company was on the contracts to avoid blame. I didn't respond to that. An hour later, notifications exploded. Morgan went live on Reels from her car dashboard, with her makeup streaked. Future sister-in-law canceled our party out of jealousy for our happiness, she said. Comments flooded in, including heartbreaks, question marks, and fire emojis. She read a few comments, her voice cracking, and talked about dreams being shattered. Viewers climbed past 10,000 in minutes. She tagged the venue and caterer. Then Finley jumped in with her own reel-stitched clips of Morgan's tears, overlaid with text that read, "Waste company boss kills engagement bash." The hashtag in family drama #Yosher Kent was trending locally, and it had 200,000 views in just 4 hours. I watched from the office trailer between truck dispatches. Ed walked in with load tickets and said that social media was blowing up with my name, as expected. I just said signing manifests, and he nodded and left. More vendor emails followed. The photo booth operator panicked about prop returns, and the bartender worried about keg deposits. I forwarded nothing. Morgan's live stream shifted to a Q&A, where she said she thinks money controls everything. Followers sent virtual gifts. Finley posted update screenshots of my company website, with the caption, "Meet the Party Killer." Likes poured in at the yard, but operations continued. Drivers unloaded chemical drums and sorters separated recyclables. Revenue ticked steady. I joined a conference call with a new client, a factory needing hazardous disposal, and we closed a deal for monthly service. My phone vibrated nonstop. I blocked the museum number after the third call, and the caterer left a voicemail saying they were releasing the order at noon, so I just archived it. Morgan ended her stream at 50,000 live viewers, promising updates. Finley hit trending top 10. I took a lunch break and ate a sandwich on the loading dock as the sun beat down on stacked containers. The team asked no questions, and work flowed. In the afternoon, a city inspector arrived for a routine audit, which we passed with flying colors. Paperwork was signed and photos were taken for records. Lane tried calling twice, but I ignored him. Morgan posted stories showing the venue empty with bare tables, and captioned it, "Heartbroken." Finley added polls asking whose side everyone was on, and the votes skewed against me. I reviewed fleet maintenance logs, including tires rotated and oil changed. At the end of my shift, I briefed the replacements and drove home as traffic thinned. Supper was takeout salad, which I ate while checking emails. New bids were incoming. Morgan's follower count jumped 5,000, and Finley messaged saying, "This is gold content." But I didn't reply. I showered, changed into sweats, and opened my laptop for personal finances, where the balance was healthy. Vendor alerts stopped after the caterer confirmed the release. The museum emailed a formal notice saying the contract was terminated, so I archived it. I scrolled through industry forums, where peers shared expansion tips, and bookmarked useful threads. I put my phone on silent and read a chapter of a business book before turning the lights out early. Trucks were coming tomorrow at dawn. At 3 p.m. that afternoon, the doorbell rang while I was sorting invoices in the home office. I opened the door to find Morgan on the step, her eyes puffy and her mascara smudged down her cheeks. "Destiny, can you give the money back? I've lost all my reputation," she asked. I crossed my arms and replied, "You sweep trash, you can't afford it." She clutched her phone like a lifeline, saying, "Brands are pulling out and followers hate me now." I stayed in the doorway and said, "Build on your own next time." She pleaded for 5 minutes, her voice rising, and the neighbors, curtains twitching. I shut the door mid-sentence. Mom rang immediately. First call. "Destiny, help your brother. He's the family pride." Ignored. Second call. "Think of the shame on us all." Declined. Third call, you're breaking his heart. Straight to voicemail. Fourth call, pick up or you'll regret it. I blocked the number. Grandma Evelyn called right after. Don't listen to your mom. You're the boss. Protect your company. Thanks, Grandma, I said, my voice steady. She shared a quick story about Dad's old business mistakes and how favors sank ships. I listened, leaning on the kitchen island. Morgan's car lingered outside for another 10 minutes, engine idling, before finally driving off. I unblocked work lines only and checked the security cam, which showed an empty street. I brewed some tea and sat on the couch. Evelyn texted a photo of her nursing home flowers, with the caption, "Strong roots," so I smiled and saved it. I opened the company dashboard and saw a new inquiry from a parts supplier, requesting a bulk disposal quote. I drafted a response with competitive rates. Mom tried from a different number, so I blocked it again. Morgan posted a story, a blurry selfie with the caption, "Betrayed by blood," and the comment sympathized. I closed the app and called Ed for an evening update. All loads were cleared, and there were no issues. He mentioned overtime volunteers, so I approved it. I hung up, stretched, and walked the backyard, checking the fence line. My neighbor waved over from his hedge, asking about recycling pickup, so I gave him the schedule. Back inside, I prepped dinner, grilled chicken and veggies, and ate at the table, with no screens. Evelyn called back. Sawyer's pacing at Ruth's. Let him stew. Will do. We discussed her physical therapy progress and ended the call warm. I washed dishes, loaded the washer, reviewed tomorrow's agenda, client site visit, equipment demo, and set my outfit aside. Morgan's follower drop hit the news feed, down 200, so I ignored it. I read an email from legal with standard contract reviews and flagged the priorities. I showered, dried my hair, and journaled 3 goals for the quarter, before dimming the lights by 9 p.m. and sleeping deep. I drove to the supplier buyer's plant for the quote walkthrough. Managers were impressed with our certifications, and we shook hands on tentative terms. I stopped at the bank to deposit checks from prior jobs, and the teller chatted about local events. I grabbed coffee and returned calls from team leads. The afternoon was spent in a conference with the safety officer, where we updated protocols and I signed off. I checked personal mail, paid auto bills, and Evelyn sent a voice note. She heard Morgan crying on the phone to Ruth, so I listened once and deleted it. I prepared a presentation for the city council bid and polished the slides. I ordered supplies online for the office and confirmed delivery. I went for an evening run around the neighborhood, cooled down and stretched. I cooked stir-fry, added spice, and watched a documentary on waste innovation, taking notes. I was in bed by 10, with my routine solid. 3 days later, an email from the museum arrived with the subject line in bold. Contract officially terminated. Guests received cancellation texts from Sawyer's phone. Venue unavailable, no reschedule. Replies flooded in with regrets, confusion, and some anger. Sawyer's agency emailed a termination that afternoon, saying personal drama was impacting the brand image. He packed his desk by 5 p.m. Morgan learned that 4 sponsors dropped her, due to morality clauses triggered by the public meltdown. Emails cited reputation risk. Finley released the final reel. Luxury setup mocked against empty hall with a voiceover from glam party to trash fest. It had 1.5 million views overnight. Sawyer moved into Mom's spare room that weekend, and boxes were stacked in the garage. Ruth cooked his favorites and defended him to the neighbors. 3 weeks in, arguments escalated over bills, and Mom snapped, "I can't support a freeloader." Sawyer left with a duffel bag, with no destination. I read the museum notice during a breakfast meeting with investors, who committed to funding a new sorting line. We signed papers and drove to the site for a groundbreaking photo with shovels and dirt and smiles for the press. Agency gossip reached Ed, saying Sawyer was blacklisted locally. He shrugged during the briefing. Morgan's profile went dark after the sponsor exodus, with no new posts. Finley monetized views and bought a better camera. Sawyer couch surfed with college buddies. Jobs rejected his resumes. Ruth changed the locks after a final fight and called relatives for sympathy, but got silence. I expanded routes to neighboring counties, added trucks, and hired staff. Training sessions ran smooth, and quarterly profits were up 20%. The board approved bonuses. Morgan applied for retail gigs online, but interviews flopped. Finley collabed with drama channels, and her income spiked. Sawyer sold his watch for rent, and the pawn ticket was in his wallet. Ruth hosted bridge club and avoided the topic, while neighbors whispered. I attended an industry conference with a keynote on sustainable disposal and networked with peers, exchanging cards. I flew home first class, upgraded fleet tracking software, and installed it across vehicles with real-time efficiency. Morgan took a temp agency placement, office cleaning with short shifts. Finley hit 1 million subscribers, and her merch line launched. Sawyer did odd jobs with delivery apps, and his tips barely covered gas. Ruth listed her spare room online, and a renter moved in. I closed a major contract with Auto Giant, a multi-year deal, and celebrated with a team barbecue. Steaks were on the grill, and laughter was loud. Morgan's old followers were forgotten. Finley teased a sequel series. Sawyer blocked the family chat with no replies. Ruth shopped alone, and her cart was half full. I planned a vacation, the first in years, to a beach destination, booked a flight, and packed light. The company ran without me, delegated authority, and the board was confident. Morgan shifted to night cleans in a uniform, plain, while Finley vacationed overseas, with posts gone viral. And Sawyer was in a motel week to week, savings drained, and Ruth reconciled with silence, no calls. I boarded the plane, relaxed in the seat, reclined, with the future clear. 2 months later, a midnight inspection at the waste yard began under floodlights. I walked the perimeter, clipboard in hand, checking containment seals. A temp worker pushed a bin near the compactor, and it was Morgan, head down, uniform baggy. She froze when our eyes met. Need a waste company, boss? I asked. Morgan dropped the handle and bolted toward the gate. Security log noted her early exit. Back in the control room, a bank alert pinged. Lane transferred the final chunk, $12,000 complete. No more contact. I blocked the account. Morning delivery brought flowers from Grandma Evelyn, lilies with a card. My girl's the real boss now, eyes forward. I placed them on the desk. The shift report showed record throughput, so I commended the night crew via email. I drove to the supplier for equipment pickup, and the new BOR was installed by noon. I did a test run, with perfect compression ratios optimal. I had lunch with Peyton at Riverside Cafe, and she sketched partnership terms on a napkin. Equity split fair. In the afternoon, the state audit arrived unannounced. Inspectors toured the facilities, reviewed logs, with zero violation certification extended. Peyton finalized logo mock-ups, and the Eco Green palette was selected. The evening promotions meeting saw 3 leads advanced. The team applauded. I was home by 8 and arranged lies in a crystal vase. I watered the porch herbs. Peyton texted about the venue for a strategy session, and I confirmed a private booth. I reviewed architect blueprints for expansion, with square footage increased 20%. Steel samples were ordered overnight, and tracking confirmed. Evelyn called to say the bouquet looks regal, and I earned it. She shared her latest knitting project, and the conversation was light. I prepared tax documents ahead of the deadline, and the accountant emailed a thumbs up. Filed electronically. Peyton arrived with wine, cracked the bottle and poured glasses, brainstorming the company name, settling on Reforged Solutions. The domain was secured. Morning yoga flow was intense, with downward dog held longer. I brewed dark roast and checked inventory software, reordered safety gear bulked in. Peyton brought fresh scones and tasted blueberry. The designer delivered first proofs and approved with minor tweaks, then walked the neighborhood trail. The neighbor asked about the compost program, and I provided a sign-up link. I grilled salmon filets and served them with lemon quinoa, eating under string lights. I journaled revenue targets, which exceeded projections. Peyton planned a site visit, and I scheduled a tour. I slept without an alarm, waking naturally at 6 a.m. Gym circuit was complete, and I showered, dressed sharp. The office flowers blooming strong inspired daily hustle. I met contractors on site, and the foundation was poured smooth. The timeline was ahead. Peyton handled permits, and all cleared. Team lunch was catered, and tacos were popular. The afternoon supplier negotiation saw a discount locked. Evening wind-down had me read the industry report, highlighting trends. Peyton messaged with excitement, and I replied, enthusiastic. Lights out by 10, with dreams of growth. 1 year later, I stood ready to cut the ribbon at the new industrial recycling plant. Peyton flanked me, scissors in hand, as cameras flashed from local press. The facility sprawled over 10 acres, with state-of-the-art sorters, massive shredders, and zero-waste loops for metals and plastics. We'd scaled from regional halls to full manufacturing partnerships. Grandma Evelyn arrived in her wheelchair, pushed by a nurse, eyes bright under the sun. She took the ceremonial scissors first, snipped the red tape with steady hands. The crowd applauded staff, investors, city council. Evelyn pulled me into a hug. "Proudest of you, kid." I held tight, smelled her familiar lavender. Peyton and I toured the guests through the main hall. Conveyors hummed, separating aluminum from steel in real time. Engineers explained efficiency metrics. 98% recovery rate. Buffet tables offered sustainable catering with compostable plates. Local produce team wore new uniforms with the reforged logo, and morale was high. Evelyn sampled the mocktails and chatted with Ed about the old factory days. He beamed, having been promoted to operations director. Investors toasted projections, triple revenue in 3 years. Champagne flowed. Peyton whispered expansion phase 2, national contracts incoming. I nodded, my vision clear. There were no messages from Sawyer, Morgan, Ruth, or Lane in 12 months. My phone was silent on that front. Evelyn wheeled to the dedication plaque built on resilience. She traced the letters, and photo ops captured the moment. Staff gifted me a custom hard hat engraved "Boss," which I wore proud. Peyton handled interviews smooth and confident. Headlines drafted. Women-led recycling empire rises in Detroit. The evening reception was under string lights, and a live band played Motown classics. I danced with team members. Evelyn joined a slow song, her wheelchair swaying. Laughter filled the air. There were no thoughts of past drama, only forward momentum. Peyton and I cut the celebration cake, chocolate with green icing, and fed each other bites. Guests mingled till dusk. The cleanup crew was efficient, leaving zero waste. Evelyn hugged goodbye. "You did it without them." I drove her back to the home, tucked her in, and promised weekly visits. Home by midnight. Peyton stayed, planning a honeymoon phase for the business. We slept entwined. We woke to sunrise over the river, had coffee on the balcony, and checked dashboards. The first shift was already crushing goals. I smiled at the plaque photo on my phone. Sometimes disappearing teaches others to value your sweat. Future unlimited.